All right, so you've been learning all these individual prompting techniques. Now it's finally time to put it all together. In this explainer, we're diving into the one skill that truly separates the beginners from the pros, how to combine techniques for those really complex, high-stakes tasks.
You know, this is the perfect way to think about it. You've totally mastered the single notes, things like assigning a role or setting a constraint. Today, you're going to learn how to combine them into these powerful chords and beautiful melodies, these cohesive instructions that can handle truly complex stuff.
So what exactly is this technique, the one that all the pros seem to rely on for their most important work? Well, let's break it down.
And it's actually pretty simple. You're not just, throwing a bunch of random commands at the AI. You're being strategic. You're layering different methods, like defining a role, giving some context, and specifying a format all in one go. Each technique actually strengthens the others, creating an instruction that is just way more powerful than the sum of its parts.
And this is why it matters so much. Come on, when you're designing a brand new course, or you're mapping out a business strategy, or maybe writing copy that has to be perfectly on brand, a simple one-line prompt just isn't going to cut it, right? This is the method you pull out when you need clarity, consistency, and depth, all in one high-quality response.
So how do you actually build one of these super-powered prompts? Well, it's not about guesswork, that's for sure. There's a really clear, repeatable process you can follow, and we're going to walk through it right now.
Here is it, the blueprint. It all starts with choosing the right tools for the job. You got to ask yourself, do I need to define a role here, or should I provide some examples? Then, and this is so important, you organize everything into labeled sections. From there, you just got to keep it clear and concise. And that last step is key. You test and you refine. You have to think of it as a cycle of constant improvement.
Seriously, don't miss this. The absolute key to success here is structure. Using clear labels like role, context, and instructions basically turns your prompt into a perfect briefing document for the AI. It just removes all the ambiguity and makes your complex request super easy for the model to understand and execute perfectly.
Okay, that's enough theory. Let's see how this blueprint actually works in practice. We're going to look at 3 totally different professional scenarios to see exactly how these prompts get built.
So our first case is something I think a lot of us can relate to: scripting a video. The goal here is pretty straightforward. Create a detailed, well-structured script for an educational lesson.
And this just shows the layering perfectly. See how we start with a role? That sets the tone. Then we add context, so the AI understands who we're talking to. We specify the exact format with headings to control the structure. And finally, we add some constraints to manage the language and style. Every single piece works together to produce a way better script.
Okay, next up, a more strategic task. Here, we need the AI to act not just as a writer, but more like a consultant, helping us map out an entire project from start to finish.
Now, look at this combination. The role is actually a dual expert. The instructions explicitly ask the AI to think step by step, and that's chain of thought prompting, a really cool technique where you guide the AI through its reasoning for more logical results. We control the format with a table, and that crucial constraint of being realistic grounds the entire plan in, well, reality.
And for our final example, let's switch gears completely and talk about marketing. The goal here is to generate persuasive copy that speaks directly to a very specific customer.
So notice how the persona technique, where you're defining the target audience for the AI, is layered right on top of the role. You might be wondering, why do both? Well, making the AI a copywriter sets its skill, but giving it a persona to write for directs that skill with incredible precision. And that, combined with clear instructions and constraints against type, that's what makes sure the output is targeted, effective, and trustworthy.
Okay, so now that you've seen what to do, let's spend a minute on what not to do. Building these prompts is a super powerful skill, but, there are a few common traps that are just so easy to fall into. Let's make sure you can sidestep them.
First up, the temptation to use every single technique you know, all at once. Look, more isn't always better. The fix is to be intentional. You have to ask yourself, does adding this technique actually help me get a better result for this specific task? If the answer is no, just leave it out. And always, always, always use those labeled sections.
The second big trap is sending mixed signals. I mean, if you ask for a brief summary and a comprehensive detailed analysis in the same prompt, you're just going to confuse the AI. You have to prioritize one main goal and then make sure all your other instructions and constraints are supporting that one objective.
You know, a complex prompt doesn't have to be a long or confusing one. In fact, the absolute best ones are incredibly clear. You should treat your prompt like any other piece of professional writing. Edit it, get rid of redundant words, make sure every single instruction in every section is as crisp and to the point as it can possibly be.
And finally, please don't think of your first attempt as your last. It almost never is. The first output the AI gives you, that's not the final product. That's feedback on your prompt. So if it's not quite right, don't just fix the output. Go back and refine the prompt. You've got to treat these mixed technique prompts as living templates that you improve over time.
You've seen the theory, you've seen the examples, and you know the pitfalls to avoid. So now it's your turn. The absolute best way to make this skill your own is to apply it right away. Here are 2 really easy ways to get started. First, take a real task from your actual to-do list and try to build a full mixed technique prompt for it. Or, second, take a simple prompt you already use and just see what happens when you add one new layer, like a persona or a format constraint. Just watch how the output changes. This is really how you develop an intuition for it.
By bringing everything you've learned together, you've really fundamentally upgraded your ability to work with AI. You're not just giving simple commands anymore. You're directing a powerful and versatile partner that can help you create, plan, and learn in ways you just couldn't before.
So, that brings us to the end. You have the theory, you've seen the examples, you've got the blueprint, you can now play full chords. So the only question left is, what are you going to compose first?